Well, first of all, a little confession, I did not do research on my topic. Because I didn't know I had to do research. Well, actually, I did technically because my research took 6 months. That's during the time I was in the army. But I did some small research before, like 5 seconds ago, and this is the number of people that are currently enlisted in the army. And yeah, minus me, this is just, and now this is the number of people. I was in my last year when I was living abroad in Belgium. I was doing my master's studies. And I was between the time where I had to choose to find a job, if I could of course, because as a non-EU citizen it's a bit more tricky, or come back to Turkey. Well, if I came back to Turkey, there was this problem. My expiration of the army, my extension was over. So I had to come back and serve. And I was applying for jobs, PhDs, doctorates, and then I was getting rejected. I mean, I was accepted to some of them, but not to the ones that I liked. And there was one last application that I really wanted. And then when I was in Paris during summer, I got this email saying, "Dear Mr. Imrek, thank you for your application." When I say thank you for your application, I understand that I'm not accepted. So I was like, fuck. And it says, "Unfortunately, we regret to inform you that your application wasn't successful." So then this was the moment where I decided to go to the army. That was around 3 years ago. So I got enlisted to the army. But I was trying to make things better for myself. I was trying to consolidate myself, saying that like in the army, okay, I'm going to train, I'm going to do... My imagination of the army was much different before I started doing my army service, where I thought, maybe because I was watching too much Spartacus, the TV series, and I thought everything would be like that, like you're like lifting tires up, like, lifting weight, and like having competitions. But the moment I entered the door, I understood army is basically about waiting half an hour to get a chocolate, getting screamed at by your commanders. I have this certain story when I was registering for the army, which took 2 days actually, because our unit was overcrowded. I was registering, and then I heard someone screaming at me the first day. He was screaming, I didn't even understand, he was screaming at me saying, "This is not a holiday resort! You have to behave here!" And then I turned back, and I saw him looking at me, and everybody else looking at him. I was like, okay, good start. So this was how my boot camp started. But then it went a bit better. I have, in the 6 months of my experiences, I have done some lists, some negative aspects, and some positive aspects, and some stories that I have experienced in the army. Of course, I have only 7 minutes. Now I have around 6, I guess. So only I'm going to tell a few of them. One of the negative aspects is in the army. First of all, let me ask you, who was in the army? Are there any officers here, professional soldiers? Good. In the army, you're never right. For example, they don't like arguments in the army. So you want to say something to your commander, saying, "Can I improve this?" Or "Let's do this like this." And the moment you enter, you say, "Sir, blah, blah, blah. Can we do this?" And then you start saying, before saying something, make sure that you know how to behave in front of me. Because like, I'm a very active speaker, I was speaking before as well, and I'm very used to using gestures. But in the army, you have to speak like this with the commander. But then I cannot express myself because it's uncomfortable. Then I go like, "Do not move your hands to me!" I was like, okay. And then, of course, the topic was coming to no end because I couldn't explain myself clearly. So in the army, you're never right. If the commander is mad at you, you want to give an explanation, he shouts at you because he doesn't like how you stand in front of him. Regardless, you're a lawyer, you're a judge, you're a trainer, whatever. Well, the good thing in the army is everybody's equal because they shout at everybody regardless who they are. Unless you're the son of a general or something. And second negative thing in the army, working hard. If you work hard, you're an idiot. This is the understanding in the army. It is like, for example, are there any volunteers to be on guard because the guy is sick? And if you say me, and then it means you're the volunteer for the next 6 months. So in the army, in the Turkish army, there is this term, "Salağa yatmak." It's not as funny as in English, but it's like playing the fool, acting the fool. So it's like, if there's a responsibility, you're either sick or somebody died, blah, blah, blah. Because the more you do something, the worse it's getting. Nobody taps you in the back and says thank you because you have to do it. But the army is not that bad. I used to travel a lot. I travel a lot in general, so I got very acquainted to different cultures. And in the army, I got very acquainted to different cultures in Turkey. There were people from the northern side, southeastern side, western side, and having them all together gave me a great impression of how Turkey actually is. Because, I mean, most of us, let's be honest, we live in our ivory towers, and we don't know how a guy in the southeast in Mardin lives. And then in the army, I had this chance, and I finally understood how a guy in Mardin lives his life. So that made me appreciate my life even more. And another good thing in the army is that you actually make real friends. Not that you don't make real friends in real life, but in the army the social protocol is down because it's like everybody for himself is survivor. Only in a shittier place than in Panama. So everybody acts naturally. They don't need to pretend because everybody acts out for their own interest. And then you can actually find people that can be your good friends. And thanks to the army, I have some real good friends actually. Okay, some short comments before I run out of time. I have 3 stories. I'm sure I'm not going to manage, so I either have to give up the award, the chance of the award, or cut out some part. Civil expertise. I mean, this is a joke that a famous stand-up comedian in Turkey does, Cem Yılmaz. This is basically how the army's officers use your professional orientation. For example, if you're a neurobiologist or if you're a biolog, then you can mow grass in the army. Or if you're an electrical engineer, then you can stay in the storage house where the bulbs are, but you don't do anything about electricity. Or yeah, only thing that you do in your profession and that is actually adjusted to the army is being a doctor. If you're a doctor in real life, you're a doctor in the army. Apart from that, I mean, yeah, if you're a lawyer, then you're the assistant of the commander. Because if you speak English, then you translate the PhD thesis dissertation of the commanders, which I did. Changing places, my favorite. In army, something doesn't get stolen because if you take something, you can't get it out of the base. So it changes places. So if you go to the commander and say, my watch is stolen, and he says, no, it's not stolen, it changed places. Very simple. My story about France, I'm going to tell later, but basically I went to France when I was in the army, and I guess I was the only private in the history of Turkish military forces that did that, but unfortunately I don't have enough time. All in all, army was useless, but it was a good experience. And if I would have the chance to do it again, I would do it. I wouldn't pay 30,000 for it. Not that I have 30,000 lira. Thank you very much.